Hello, Julie here and welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to create a very simple beginner friendly project that we can either attach to our page as a pocket or we can just clip it in. And I'm going to be using some digital papers. You can use any papers you like. It might be scrapbooking paper, book page, whatever. And then I'm going to be using either Velum, Acetate, baking paper, something that you can see through. Right, so let's start by starting with our background. Now I'm going to use this for my background and I'm going to make two. I've got two signatures here that I'm going to put these into. So I like my clip-in things to be about 4.5 inches wide, so I'm going to cut this at 4.5. Actually, I might just trim that down a little bit. So let's trim, say, that much off. And then cut our 4.5. There. So that will be one background, and then this one at 4.5. Is that 4.5? Yeah. I thought I'd cut it at 3.5 there for a minute, and I thought I'd have to get another piece of paper for my background. Okay, now while we're at it, we may as well cut this. This is going to be 4.5 inches wide as well. So let's cut this at 4.5. And another one at 4.5. Okay, so that's most of our cutting. We're going to have to cut our thing that we're going to cover this with. Now I'm going to, with this one, I'm going to score at say 3/4 of an inch from the top. So this is the top, because that way my writing will be up the right way. I'm going to do that on both of them. And I'm also going to round the corners on those. So let's do that. Just the corners on the longer edge. I'm going to use the bigger corner, which is my preference. This one. Okay. Now I'm going to, now the height, I need to trim down the height, don't I? I'm going to make these, how tall? So my pages are normally A5 size, so this, I could make this, because that makes them 8.25. So let's say I make these 7 inches tall. Trim that off. And this one, where am I going to take it off of there? I have to take it off the top. What does that say? 7 inches? Right. So we want something in the background, or we want this to be something pretty, because we're going to see it. Now we're going to fold these on our score line and ink around them. As I said, this is a really quick and easy little project, but cute. So this one, I'm going to take my glue and attach that to the back of that, like that. So I want to make sure I've got that lined up side to side, and I want to make sure I've got, where that folds, I've got that cleared with my so there's my fold there. I'll link that. I've got a little bit over on that side. We'll see how we go with that. That's okay. Alright, now we're going to ink around this one. You can stitch around this too if you're a sewer. I'm going to ink this just so it's easier to see when I'm attaching the background. Okay, so and attach that there so I can get it nicely side to side. Bring that up just a little bit. Hope I haven't got my head in the way. Now, white on here, up to you whether you like that or not. I'm going to, you can cover it, you know, glue a piece of paper in there and then trim around the top. You can ink it, or you could cover it with coffee dyed paper, or you can leave it white, or you could just, you know, cover it with ink like that. It's up to you too when you're inking, whether you are more interested in getting a nice smooth look to it, or if you don't mind the more speckled look like this, I suppose. I don't mind the variegated look. I think it just adds a little bit of interest, and I'm going to ink around the edge, give it a darker edge. I have printed this on 110 GSM paper. You can print it onto sturdier paper if you wish, but by the time we put our pocket on this, it will come up quite sturdy. Okay, now our next thing is to put our pocket on the front. So we're going to make a pocket that comes over this whole picture. And for that, there's lots of things we can use. We could use some baking paper. So we're looking for something that's going to show our image underneath through. So baking paper. You can use tracing paper. So this is a, what is it? A4, tell me what GSM? 90 to 95 GSM. So quite a sturdy tracing paper. You can see that shows up quite nicely. And you can use acetate, which will show your thing perfectly. You know, you'll see everything, all the detail with that. Or you can use vellum. Now I've got several different sorts of vellum here. I've got just a plain vellum, like that. I've got a speckled vellum that's a bit thicker. You can't really see the image all that clearly through that. I've got a vellum with a sort of a motley finish to it. That would be fine as well. I've got a sheen, a vellum with a sheen. And I've got a vellum with a small spot design on it. And did I show you the plain vellum? I think I might have. So that's the plain vellum. Now, to decide what to use is the trick. Oh, and also I've got these two vellums here which are slightly coloured. So this one's a yellow, so that one could go over that okay. And this one's a pink. So, you know, you could use that as well. So if you've got coloured vellum, you could use that. So, what am I going to use? Well, I like the acetate. I'm a big acetate fan actually. I'm not going to use a tracing paper because that's very similar to the vellum. I don't want the brown of the baking paper, so I'm going to put that out of the way. So I'm going to use either perhaps I'll do one of each, eh? One of each might be a thing. Okay, I will. I'll do one of each. But as I said, you've got the choice of all of those different types of papers you can use to cover yours with. All right, so let's move on to the next step. Now, I made my pocket 7 inches tall, and I'm going to cut this 7 by 4.5, wasn't it? So I'm going to cut it 5.5 inches wide because I'm going to wrap it around. And I'm going to wrap it around about 1/2 inch, so I'm going to cut it to 5.5. And then for the height, I don't want my pocket to be the full height of this. I want it to be probably about 3/4 of an inch down, something like that maybe. So I'm going to cut it, what was this, 7, so I'm going to cut it at 6.25. I'm not going to wrap the bottom around, I'm just going to wrap the sides around. So now I need to cut one the same size out of my vellum. So what was it, 5.5? By 6.25. Right. Okay. Now I'm going to use my scoreboard. I'm going to score at 1/2 inch on the two sides. So I'll score at 5.5 inch. And I'll do the same with the vellum. Score at 5 and 1/2 inch. I just find it a bit awkward doing the 1/2 inch one close to the edge. Probably should just pivot my vellum around. And okay, so let's fold them over on our scores. You can, if you don't want to use your scoreboard, there is another way of doing this, and I'll explain that to you. Right, now I'm going to run a bead of glue along the bottom of this. Just the bottom, like so. And I'm going to fold those out and let them wrap around the back and attach. Slide the bottom piece right down to the bottom. Like so. Burnish that down. And then turn it over to the back and run a bead of glue down there. Now if you hadn't scored, you would just fold this around instead of using the folding before. Okay. Right, so now I should have done this before, and hopefully I'm not too late, but I think I'd like to put a thumb notch in there. And I may well be too late to do that. It might not fit my big punch in there. Oh yes. Either the punch doesn't like cutting vellum or I didn't have it on a good enough angle. But there we go. Now, you could have inked around your vellum first if you wanted to. So there is our little... Actually, I'm going to change my mind on this. I'm going to put a magnet on it to keep it closed. And to do that, I've got some magnets here. They're very small. They're very strong though. And I'm going to add on there and one there. Then I'll cover this with coffee dyed paper. Okay, that's that. Fold that over like that. And then on the back I will add a magnet. Now, you don't want to do this if you're using double-sided paper, because now I'm going to cover this. Oops, hasn't stuck. I'm going to get some coffee dyed paper. There we go. Cut this down to 4.5 inches. I'm going to attach that onto there. I'm not taking it right up to the fold because I still want that to fold without catching on anything. Finish that down. And then use my scissors to trim around that. Okay. So now it stays closed. Now this one I'm going to put a backing on it. I'll need another piece of this that is 4.5 inches wide. Go that way. So I'm going to use this one as a clip-in. So I'm just going to clip this to a page. The next one I do, I'm not going to clip to the page, so I won't cover the back. I'm going to make the next one a pocket. I would have covered the back anyway, even if I hadn't used the magnets, because we would want to make this a writing spot. As I said, this is going to be freestanding. Now we can trim that off. And I think I will round those corners, those bottom corners as well. Okay, so now I'm going to ink around this whole thing and then come back and show you what it looks like. Okay, so there we go. That's our first one. So this is still a bit wet, so we've got a journaling spot on the back. We've got a pocket here that will, you know, we can put things in from our, you know, little embellishments and things for our journal. Now, let's do the magnets for this one before we go any further. I'm using 2 because these magnets, well, they are pretty strong. They're very thin, and if you get too much paper between the 2 magnets, they don't tend to grip all that well. So I'm putting 2 on there, and then I'll put some of this paper on there. Okay, trim that off. You can use your trimmer and just use your corner rounder on the edges if you want to, but with this being there already cut, it's pretty straightforward to cut around it. Okay, now let's put the magnets on the back. So when you're attaching magnets, if you don't already know, always attach one magnet down and then use the magnetism of that one to decide where you're placing your other ones. And remember that they attract on one side and repel on the other, so you have to make sure you get them down the right way. I'm going to use this one as a pocket, so I'm not going to put coffee dyed paper over the whole thing. What I am going to do is I'm going to get some washi tape. Some washi tape that you're not that keen on or you don't use. This is actually masking tape, and I'm going to just cut a piece of that, or tear a piece of that. No, I can't tear it, I have to cut it. And I'm going to stick that over those so that when you're sliding things into the pocket, it's not going to catch on there. Okay, right, so that's our magnets done. Now we're going to add our vellum. No, in this case we're using acetate. So let's punch a thumb notch in that. I'm going to try and get it about halfway. Pretty hard to see, isn't it? Oh, my punch doesn't like it. There we go. Just about had to pull my punch apart to get it out. So I don't know. This is I don't know if it's EK Success or Martha Stewart, but supposedly a good brand, but it obviously doesn't like cutting through vellum or acetate all that much. There we go. All right. Now, there's a bit of a hook there. Okay, so we're going to add some glue to the bottom here. And I find that if I put the glue on and then I sort of spread it out a little bit like this, and then attach my vellum, okay, now we're going to fold our edge over. Now being acetate, I think I called it vellum before, but it's acetate, you really have to burnish that to make it stay in place. Now we're going to do the same for this side, fold that over. Burnish it down. And run some glue under there. Oops. Keep that in place. The same for this side. I'm just going to add some of these little clips to that, just to let it dry for a minute. Okay, right, so there we go. Now, let me just clean up a bit and I'll be right back. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to run some of that washi tape along the edge of that acetate so that when we're putting things into our pocket, they're not going to get caught. I might use some larger scissors for that. Just cut that across there and run that along the edge of that. So we're making the back nice and smooth so that when we slide things into our pocket, they're not going to catch on anything. Okay. Very sticky tape. Okay, now corner rounding. I'm not sure whether my corner rounder will handle the acetate, so I'm not going to do that. So there's our two nice little pockets, vellum, acetate. Now I'm going to decorate them a little. I don't want to take too much away from the background, so I'm not going to go heavy with the decoration. Let's just cut. I've got so much glue on my scissors now, they won't cut. So, don't know that I want. Just going to do a little piece of lace, maybe a small label like that, and a floral. Now I've got some fussy cuts here. These were part of a freebie that match in perfectly with the kit, so something smallish I want. It's not bad. It's a smaller vase. Perhaps something like that. Okay, that's what I'm going to do on that one. You could do that there, or you could put it up on the flap. Perhaps it'll be better up there. Does the lace fit up there? Yeah. I think I will put it up there, and then we've still got our prettiness down here. By inking around the fussy cuts, it makes you look like you've done a great job of fussy cutting. It hides all those bits and pieces that you've missed. I think that's supposed to be that way up, so we'll put it over the other side. Okay, so there's that one. Now this one, let's decide what we're going to do. I suppose we'll do something similar on that as well. So I'll do this one up there, and what sort of label do we want? Go for one of these types of things. It's a bit lost on there, I think. To maybe just text. I'm going to trim that down a bit. I think that's too big. And a floral. Reasonably smallish one. I'll go for that one. Okay, so that is the whole process for creating the pockets. Now I'm going to put them into my signatures. So in this one, I will clip it to a page. So this is the one that's got the journaling spot on the back. It's been inked all over. It's got a pocket there where we can pop any sorts of ephemera that we want to, and I'm just going to attach it to the page using a paper clip. I've got some gold paper clips here, and I'm just going to attach it like that. We can take that out, move it around, do whatever we like with it. So that's one. The other one, I'm going to attach this one as a pocket. So this is the one that we've put the masking tape on the back so that when we slide things in and out of the pocket, they won't catch. So let's have a look. I want to put this somewhere up the back. Here. So I'm going to attach this to the page on 3 sides, and I'm going to have a side opening pocket. You could do the same thing with the top if you wanted to, but I'm just going to do a side because I think it will be easy to get things in and out of. So let's put a row of glue along our 3 sides. And position that where we want it. So I'm going to go for around about the middle, and I'm going to have about the same distance on this side. It gives me a little more distance on that side, but that's good. I'm going to try and make sure I've got that lined up with the edge of the page there. Okay, let's try and burnish that down. And there we have a pocket that goes in there, so we can put something in that. Let's see what we've got. I've got a few things here that I've made up from the kit, so we should be able to find something to pop in there. One of these. So this is a journaling spot, so we can just pop that in there like so. Okay, and then we can put something in there also. Alright, well that's my project for today. I hope you've enjoyed it. I think they're pretty easy and pretty handy, so yeah, love them. Love them, love them. Alright, well thank you for joining me. I hope you've enjoyed the video, and I hope you can join me when I post my next video. Okay, bye.